Doctor, look.
Stand aside, nurse. I'm Dr. Homebrew.
Stand clear.
Hey, what's going on, everybody? Thanks a lot for joining us on another episode of Dr. Homebrew. We have David back, my neighbor, apparently, next town over, not like direct neighbor, but, David is a homebrewer, and he was on last month. I forget which show or even what beer it was. Wasn't it a fest beer, David?
Yeah, that was it.
Okay, yeah. And now he's back with a wee heavy, which, I mean, I don't know, man. When it rains, it pours sometimes. We talk about styles that we don't normally get on this show. I don't remember, Cooper, the last time we had a wee heavy.
I don't know. Have we ever had a wee heavy?
That's the other side of it, I guess. Maybe. I would imagine in 200 something shows we've done, we had to have had a wee heavy at some
Didn't we
point.
taste the the Orkney Skull Splitter at one point as a commercial beer or something?
I don't know.
You guys actually you got this wee heavy because last time you had a wee heavy, you gave the guy shit for only doing it because he needed to get rid of it.
Okay.
And that's why you got this one.
Now it's coming back. Okay. All right.
And this is actually the last of it from the keg, so it worked.
Oh, nice. Very cool, man. Very cool. Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. I like the style, personally. It's not one that you see commercially, really, even, also.
Yeah, episode 168, Scottish Wee Heavy and Catarina Sour. I remember the Catarina Sour, but yeah.
Those are two styles that are typically known to go together in a tasting flight.
Right. Again, not something you get every day there.
It was May 2020. I was a Dr. Homebrew then, I believe.
Early pandemic show, yeah.
Yeah, I remember the Catarina Sour. I do not recall the Scottish Wee Heavy at all.
I've forgotten a lot of things that happened during the pandemic.
Well, I mean, it's still going on, so,
And from before, yeah.
I've blocked a lot of things out from the before times.
Before we get to Dave's beer, though, I do want to thank our show sponsor, 5 Star Chemicals. You can go to 5starchemicals.com right now, today, immediately, if not sooner, and learn about the best ways to clean and sanitize your home brewing equipment, which is, of course, using 5 Star Chemicals. And while you're there on their website, sign up for their Homebrew Club program. If you want to test out new products from 5 Star before they're even on the market, or if you want free monthly educational sessions to up your homebrew game, check it out. It's free. They don't want anything from you. You just got to sign up. And that's it. So 5starchemicals.com. Check it out. Sign up for that class, or the program, the Homebrew Club program, not the class, but, they do have classes. And check it out. See how you can improve your beer. And then send it to us. That's the thing. That's the synergy right here. You got to send it to us.
If we're using the word synergy, have we jumped the shark?
No. Every time I hear the word synergy, I always remember John Plissé, his band called Synergy.
Really? He has a band called Synergy.
He did. I mean, it was like him and his friend Ron, I guess, I think was his name or whatever. And, John Plissé. Years ago.
That's pretty cool.
I wonder what that guy's doing sometimes. I think about John every now and then.
When I was listening to the session way back in the day, long before I met you, JP, I thought the two of you were the same guy because you were JP and he was Jonathan Plissé.
Yeah.
So he's JP. So I thought you were the same person for like a minute.
I get that. I get also John Palmer. People thought I was a John Palmer, so they would like write in, like, dude, I love you on the show. You're so good. I'm like, oh, cool. This is a nice email to get. If I send you my book, will you sign it? I'm like, why would you want me to sign? Oh, the other Paul. Yeah, okay, got it. All right. Thanks, asshole. Yes, I will sign your book also. I don't know.
Yeah, I think any of us will sign any book you want to send us. Ship it to us,
Sure,
give us some return postage. We'll sign whatever you want.
Yeah. Right? I'll sign everybody's name if you want. I don't really care.
Yeah.
I don't really give a shit about it. All right, well, what do you think? Let's break into a wee heavy.
Let's crack some skulls.
Yeah, let's do it. David, is this something you've done before?
No,
first time. Okay.
Yeah, I just wanted to try the style, so I just brewed it.
I like beers like this. I like I like a lot of stuff, I guess, when it comes to this show. But I sort of have a soft spot in my heart somewhere, my palate, I guess, for brand new first attempts at styles. I don't know why. I think maybe that's just like the home brewer in me, right? Where it's like I can really relate to that, to like kind of a shot in the dark. I don't know, what's going on. So
getting to know you.
Yeah. How did you prepare for the beer? Did you read a couple of the recipes, or how do you tackle a style you've never done before?
Brewing classic styles.
Okay. All right. Hey man.
Basically it.
That's all, pretty much all you need to do. Really.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Step 1, find out what Jamil said. Step 2,
do what Jamil said. Yeah. Step 3, profit.
Yes.
Cooper, why don't you go ahead and start? I can see you're already pouring the beer. You're ready for this.
I poured the beer and I'm ready for this. Yes. So David's Wee Heavy. Yeah, it's category 17C if you want to follow along in the guidelines. It's had a nice low hiss upon opening. In the aroma, I'm getting pleasantly malty with medium light caramel. In the nose, I felt like I got something a little fruity, like a low, well, there's obviously something fruity in there, but it's like coming across as kind of like a low bruised banana like fruitiness, or just kind of like banana peel that's gotten a little older. But that fruitiness is kind of interesting to me, and it doesn't seem to fit with the style super well. But otherwise, I didn't get any diacetyl, anything else really bad sticking out here. It's got a bit of a bread crust like maltiness, low hop noted only, just a faint little earthiness there in the background. And just smelling the nose, I'm getting a lot of fruitiness and that little earthiness, and some maltiness, but I think I want more on the malt side. To me, there's no obvious alcohol sticking out in the nose. If there is, it's really deceptive and smooth and out of the way. Not a bad appearance, 8 out of 12, or aroma. Appearance wise, it's copper colored beer. Really nice, pretty beer, actually. A medium light tan head, persists quite well. No legs or anything. You can kind of tell the strength sometime, get a clue about the strength anyway from that. Some of these will throw up legs. The beer is quite clear. It just presents itself really well. 3 out of 3 for appearance. Flavor wise, when I get in here, this is where I get, okay, this is richly malty with notes of caramel, treacle, and low nuttiness. There's a little bit, I'm getting like a little maybe apricot, like fruity sweetness in here. It's kind of interesting, or maybe a little banana-like, but it seems less than what I was getting in the aroma. It's not standing out as much because all these flavors are kind of kicking in. It doesn't have any of the, it can have a little smokiness if you use dark malts to color the beer, but that's okay. It doesn't need to have that kind of slightly smoky quality. And like guidelines will tell you many times, that is not from peated malt. Do not try to make a Wee Heavy with peated malt. Obviously, David did not do that. That would stick out like a sore thumb. Yeah. Don't use like fuel heating materials to make your beer. Low esters, again, not getting as much of the banana here, really. Definitely get a little low alcohol in the flavor, but it's clean and smooth. The fermentation also seems likewise pretty clean. Low bitterness, just to balance. It does have a malty quality that stays well into the aftertaste. It's that kind of bread crust like light caramel, kind of a darker caramel type flavor. Light fruitiness, like golden raisins, I said. Trying to be creative there. The richness is definitely better in the flavor. The balance is to the malt, and I'd say it finishes semi-sweet. I landed at a 13 out of 20 on the flavor. Mouthfeel wise, medium bodied, almost to medium full, I meant. Seems just a bit light for the style, but okay, it could be on the lower end, or again, maybe just very deceptive and well hidden. We'll see. Carbon dioxide is medium. The head sticks around for quite a while there, so it does still, kick up a little head, and it keeps going. It's not too prickly or effervescent, though. You can go a little lower. You want it to be kind of medium to medium high, I believe. Has a pretty smooth alcohol warmth. No, it's not really syrupy or overwhelming in the body or the texture of the beer here. It's just feels like a good beer, but it doesn't scream, wow, this is a strong one. Well, I landed at a 3 out of 5 for mouthfeel. I think that I thought, even though it does kick up a little carbonation. It's supposed to be medium to high, and this one was a little towards medium low, and then just it felt light for the style, and that's why I kicked it down a little bit there. A nicely rich Scottish ale that delivers a pleasant maltiness in the flavor. There's something in the aroma that's a little odd or a little lighter malt wise than I want, or maybe this kind of bruised fruit thing is getting in the way a little bit. It really only detracts a bit though, but you could just go a little bit firmer with this, go a little heavier, and you could get away with it very easily. I think I would like it slightly drier in the finish. It's not cloying, but it does linger in a lot in the aftertaste, that sweetness. Otherwise, it's a really clean, well-crafted beer. I gave it 7 out of 10 for overall impression and landed at a 34 on the total score. So very drinkable, and it's very in the very good category. Just needs a little tweaking here and there to get up to towards a 40 or higher. But very, very tasty for a first try at that beer.
Yeah. Awesome. All right, Shar, go ahead.
Excellent. Yeah, David, thank you for sharing this beer. You've been on the show before, but as you know, I always ask the question, are you in a homebrew club?
Nope, lone wolf in it.
All right, good for you. Don't get on any watch lists. That's always a good advice. But don't get on a watch list. Do keep making this. This is good. So I start off with the aroma. I largely echo what Cooper had to say, and I will be curious to discuss our differences later. Aroma, I thought it was malty at a high level with caramel, bread crust, and toffee notes. No hop aroma, no off aromas. As it warmed, I did get a little of the fruitiness that Cooper was talking about. I don't know that I would call it the bruised banana, but I got a light fruity character, and also a little bit of minerality, which is fine. Nothing wrong with that, but I noted just a hint of mineral. Appearance, so it was 8 out of 12 for aroma. Appearance, 3 out of 3. This beer is crystal clear. There's a medium ivory head that's very persistent, and it's a light copper color. Flavor, initially I thought it was malt focused with some bready and low caramel notes. I got like a low amount of roast, and this is not a roasty beer, but a low roast character is appropriate for this style. It's optional, it's not required, but it's okay. Bitterness comes up the balance mid-palate. The finish is long and balanced, actually, to me, a little bit toward bitterness and not the malt. I thought this beer was really well attenuated, very dry. I had a note here was missing a fruity and ethanol character. As it warmed up, I got some fruit, but like Cooper was saying, I never quite got that sweet ethanol. In a style like this, it's supposed to be a high alcohol style. You shouldn't have like the fusels, the harsh alcohol. It shouldn't be a harsh note, but you should get some ethanol sweetness. You say, yeah, there's some alcohol here. And can you hear that dog in the background? That's
yes.
Yeah, I can't do anything about that. Sorry.
It's all right.
He's a little yippy. She's a little yippy girl. So I give that 12 out of 20 for flavor. Mouthfeel, medium body, medium carbonation. I didn't get any warming out of this beer, so I knocked a point off for that. Wee Heavy doesn't have to be an alcohol bomb. It doesn't have to be, like you're drinking just straight up ethanol, but there should be a little bit of a warming character to this that I wasn't getting. A little more creamy than astringent. A little bit more body would be desirable too. I still give that 4 out of 5 for mouthfeel. Overall impression, 6 for a total of 33. I really liked, personally, the dryness and the attenuation of this beer, but I think that's kind of what took it a little bit out of style for me. A Wee Heavy doesn't have to be cloying, but it needs to be a little sweeter, be a little more malt focused, and have a little more warming than this one does. What I've brewed Wee Heavies before, and the advice that I had gotten, which sure everyone can do things differently. So you want to retain some long chain unfermentables in this beer, which is what gives you the body and a little bit of the sweetness. And when I would do a 10-gallon batch, I would take the first gallon, essentially. I would have the kettle already starting to heat up, and I'd run off that first gallon of wort onto that hot kettle base, and it would start caramelizing and boiling down. And I would get that boiled down to almost like it was a syrup. And it was a really thick, wasn't a huge volume, but there was this thick syrupy liquid at the bottom. And then when I was done and I ran that off into the kettle or into the fermenter, that part would be in the beer. It wouldn't ferment, but it would give you, with those long chain fermentables, that body and that sweetness that this beer really needs. But total score, again, 33. I thought it was really tasty. The issues that I had were not technical issues, maybe slightly more recipe issues. So thank you very much for sharing.
All right, very good. Yeah, I agree with what you guys are saying. I get a little kind of a honey thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, the bruised banana peel is interesting because for some reason we have, basically brown bananas at home. They're just, they're just mushy, right? But it sort of smells like that, not in a classic like hyper banana, pushy banana, but it's that decaying sort of thing.
Banana pudding or
which is
something like that.
It is a good aromatic. It's not off-putting, but I do think it's a little bit out of place. David, let's run through your recipe.
Okay.
And maybe we'll take a break and then we can figure out some of these phenols and where they're coming from.
Okay. Started out with 20 pounds of Pilsner, 1 pound of Crystal 40, 8 ounces of honey malt, 4 ounces of Crystal 120, 4 ounces of Viking light malt, chocolate malt. And I remember I did fuck up when I went to go buy the ingredients. I forgot the Munich. So Jamil has Munich in his, and I don't have mine. Then had an ounce and a half of EKG at 17 IBUs and half ounce EKG for 2.1 at the end of the boil. And then fermented it with a big pitch of Scottish ale from White Labs. Started out at 1080 and went down to 1016, 8.6.
What do you guys think?
1090 to 1016, yeah.
No, 1080.
I can definitely. You were right on the ball with that honey malt, JP.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's really well attenuated.
Yeah.
That's why it comes across to me as a really dry and well attenuated beer. Probably is because that yeast. What yeast did you say you used again? I'm sorry.
The Scottish ale from White Labs.
Wow. And I love that yeast. I use that for even like my American stouts. I often use the Scottish ale yeast because it would give a little bit of a smoky character. I thought this doesn't have that, but that's a great yeast.
Yeah, it doesn't taste like a 1016. It tastes drier than that.
Tastes like a 1006.
Yeah.
My comments were a little more towards I got some sweetness probably from just the smooth alcohol that gives the impression of sweetness sometimes. But I got
fermented it low.
Like a semi-sweet impression out of it. It's not bone dry at all. But when you start that high, sometimes 1016 can feel a lot different than it feels when you start at 1055.
Yeah.
And this was brewed exactly a year ago, October 15th.
Oh, wow. Okay.
That's some time to sit and age. Yeah.
Yeah. When it was new, it was kind of boozy, and that mellowed out pretty quick, but it was boozy at first.
The nice thing here is I'm not getting a lot of bad oxidation. There's no cardboard or papery quality to it, which is great.
No, not at all. Not at all.
It could age, even longer, of course.
Has this been sitting in a keg? Did you bottle it right away? How is it packaged?
Yeah, no, it was in a keg until a couple weeks ago or a month ago when I bottled it for you guys.
Wow.
And you still had it left. I mean, well, you said there's the last of it, right?
Yeah, this is the last of it. Right here, I got 2 bottles left. But.
Okay, interesting. All right. Yeah, we're going to take a quick break. We're going to come back, and I want to talk a little about the phenols and the banana and see where we can kind of dial that in and what other stuff we can do here. So hang on, everybody. It's Dr. Homebrew. We'll be right back.
What's up, homebrewers? Hey, let me ask you a question. You spend a lot of time making your beer taste the way you want it to, right? Some of you even send beers into Dr. Homebrew for feedback. Well, the next logical step in your creativity is to craft some labels for those beers. And there's nobody better at creative labels than GrogTag. Their easy-to-use designs let you turn out some pretty amazing stuff like labels, bottle caps, coasters, even six-pack carriers with minimal effort on your part. They have a range of label sizes that fit any vessel you can think of. Bottles, cans, growlers, kegs. GrogTag has you covered. Head over to grogtag.com today and check out their line of amazing, fully customizable templates and get your beer looking its best. GrogTags are water resistant, reusable, and will have your naked bottles looking great in no time. That's grogtag.com, and be sure to use code BNARMY at checkout to save 10% on your order.
I'm sorry to tell you this, but we're going to have to pour you out.
Back to Dr. Homebrew.
We're back, and what I want to do is sort of go through, unless we have any recipe issues or whatever we want to cover, talk a little bit about that sort of bruised banana peel thing and what David can maybe do to eliminate some of that, because it doesn't sound like it's a desirable aromatic, right?
What temperature was it fermented at? You pretty low, you said, or?
Yeah, it started out at like 64 and then went to 66.
Okay. Yeah.
Bumped it up to 68 at the end.
Nothing really wrong there. I mean, you can ferment these a little cooler, and it is pretty cool up there in Scotland. Traditionally, the farther north you go, the cooler the fermentation, I guess, in general, or the more wintry a place is, you might have more lagers. It's just kind of an interesting phenomenon. Back in the old days, they didn't have all that temperature control stuff. But yeah, I think that you could go a little lower than you did to try to drive those esters down a bit. Phenols, I'm not getting like phenols. Sometimes people get phenols and esters mixed up, but
yes.
Did you get any
That's what I'm doing.
Okay, spicy. Sometimes in these beers you can get a smoky quality, which is a phenolic, and I believe Brian got some of that in this beer. That is a phenolic category, kind of an aromatic, and but I don't think that the phenols are out of control in here. That's definitely more fruity than it is like spicy or smoky. So that balance, you could, bring the fruit down, and maybe some of that, the malt richness might stand out a little bit better.
I think some of that, what Jason was thinking of was banana, might be that honey malt.
Yeah.
Always, I'm a fan of taking that honey malt out.
Yeah, honey malt is cool in theory, but it's hard to, I don't know. You can accent some stuff. Like I used to put it in my porter, and I felt like it accented some of the malt character a little bit. But if you have too much, how much did you have again, David?
8 ounces.
Yeah, it is a lot.
That's quite a bit then, huh?
Yeah, and this is a 5-gallon batch?
6 gallon, yeah.
Okay. And I almost like, maybe the beer's warming up. Maybe I'm fooling myself. Maybe it's this Heineken 00 I'm drinking also. But I feel like I can taste like I've just eaten honey malt, like that malty. First of all, it's a delicious grain. I definitely recommend just eating handfuls of it.
It's my first time ever actually using it.
It's very, very good. Throw on some yogurt, dude. Power down it. But I mean, I would go like 4 ounces, maybe. It's very light.
I would get rid of it altogether.
But yeah, get rid of it altogether. Yeah.
It seems like a cheat to me in Jamil's recipe. The more traditional way to make it is to use a Scottish or UK malt, really good quality floor malted pale malt with a little bit of roasted barley for color, and then you can use some crystal malt to adjust the color a bit more and get it a little more reddish, richer. Now you can also adjust the color by going stronger, which I would even suggest here too. But actually, you said you started at 1090. That's kind of right in there. Yeah,
it's 1080
or 1080. 1080 is actually towards the low side. It can go up to like 1130. So you can get them up to 10%. That is going to leave a little more sweetness in the finish and the body. But we both did kind of pick up on this one being a little bit lighter, and I agree with Brian there. It's on the lighter side for body. So I would honestly agree with simplifying the recipe. Just maybe take out some of the unnecessary malts. I don't know that the Munich would have done you any favors either. Sometimes it is a nice, a way to cheat a little bit, to use all these different kitchen sink malts and get it close to the right place, and it might impress a set of judges if you do it really well. But go a little more traditional and try it. Just the roasted grains for color and a little smokiness that would come in and kind of balance off that sweetness and fruitiness that's there, and then get that rich color with just a little caramel, rich dark caramel probably. But I wouldn't go too heavy on that either. But yeah, what do you think about a simpler recipe, guys?
I'm all for it. I'm always for it. Less is more.
Yeah, I tend to agree with JP that in most situations, unless you've got a real solid reason for having the ingredient there, I tend to prefer just taking it out.
Which is the hard part about doing this. We like to homebrew because we like to futz with stuff, and it's almost like there's so much energy put into making a batch of beer, whatever size it is, that you just want to get all the flavors in your head out at the same time. It's like, well, I'm doing it. Let's try this and let's try it. And I still struggle with it.
That is a temptation for sure.
Yeah.
And I've done the same thing. I'm guilty of that for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you feel like, I want to be creative, right? I want to be creative and try stuff. And it's not like, I'm making lasagna for dinner, which I've made like once a month or once every couple of months for the last 30, 40 years of my life. And it's always about the same. And it's just, you want to just try to have something fun and be creative, do something fun and be creative. And I get that impulse, and the simplicity sometimes, or the dialing it in, or the simplicity factor maybe isn't as fun from that standpoint. It's not, maybe you're not being creative. Oh, I have all these 5,000 ingredients. I'm going to try to do this and this and make something brand new and great. But sometimes less is more, like you're saying.
Yeah. What do you think, David? Yeah. Oh, sorry, Brian, go ahead.
Go ahead. Yeah.
No, I think. Yeah. You go ahead, Brian Cooper. Let's go. You talk right now.
Yes.
I need you to talk, Brian. Brian, go ahead and just talk.
Okay. I keep getting interrupted when I start talking, but that's okay. The yeast that you used is great. And the way you treated it, I wanted to hear what you did for a yeast starter. It must have taken a pretty good big yeast starter to get this going properly and happily.
Yeah. 2-day starter, and then let it crash overnight and dump the cold break, and then pitch some of the wort in the starter and stir that back up, and then pitch that and oxygenate.
Yeah. I don't think that, I've done that cheat too, the cheat. I keep calling everything a cheat, but the concentrated and boiled wort. And I really don't think that is traditional either for the beer. It is a nice way to get some caramelization going, but they shouldn't be like super heavily like butterscotchy or, it's a Scotch ale, but it's definitely going to be a little more on the alcohol and, a little complexity from the dark malt, and a little complexity from the caramel, but not all from the boil. You would probably use a longer boil to concentrate the wort overall, but not just boil a little tiny part of it and get it burnt on the bottom of your kettle to a syrup. It's a trick. You can try it if you want to listen to Brian, but I don't know. I didn't have the.
I always kind of
results.
heard that was what you like traditionally, because in way back in the day, they didn't have roasted malts. They just had malt. They had one malt, and to get the color, you had to boil it longer to do that. Right. But then again, beer in the 1700s probably sucked ass. Just because it happened doesn't mean that it was good, I guess. There's something to be said there.
Yeah, that's a good point, that they didn't have style guidelines. They didn't have beer judges. They didn't have American Homebrewing Association, Brewers Association. It was just some dudes making some stuff that would get them fucked up. Right. And as long as it was tolerable and it didn't make them sick, they're like, okay, that's cool. We'll drink it.
Yeah, it's fine. Fuck it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
History with Brian Shore.
This is my version of drunk history.
That's right. David, do you have any questions for the guys?
No, that sounds pretty good to me.
Pretty good? All right.
Yeah.
We're done with David. We're going to cut him.
We got to cut him loose.
Send us some more beer sometime, brother. If you rebrew one of these, the Fest beer or this one, let's do it again sometime.
Yeah, I'm not doing another Wee Heavy. That was a one and done.
Mm-hmm. No, you're never going to do it again.
No, I just wanted to give you guys some content.
Okay. Jesus, well,
thank you so much.
Did you not like it, David, or why won't you do it again? Just because
I got 2 little kids. I don't need bunch of 9% beers on tap.
Fair.
It's too much for me. I like the 5% range nowadays.
There we see. It happens, dude. Yes.
Yeah.
Solidarity
I'm
in
Pilsner next. I'll send you guys some of that.
Yeah, do that.
Nice.
Solidarity
Sounds
in the
good.
East County with the fucking low alcohol beers, dude. That's what we got to do to make
Four
it.
Legs always has a bunch on tap. You should check them out.
Yeah, I keep hearing about it, and I never go over there.
Yeah, I've only been a few times, but every time I go, they got a bunch of good low alcohol beers. So
No, that sounds
Pretty
great. That sounds awesome. All right, everybody, hang on real fast. We're going to take a break. We're going to kick David out, and we're going to come back and we're going to do more homebrewing talk, or at least talk on Dr. Homebrew. We'll be right back.
Now, back to the examination.
All right, everybody, thanks for sticking around. We are going to diverge a little bit from tasting beers right now, and we're going to go into the thoughts and minds of beer judges while they are tasting beers. We're going to get a little meta, and we're going to review some score sheets. Cooper, you have some score sheets there, right? What are we doing? What's today's lesson?
Yeah. Well, I just pulled up, this is what we work with day in and day out as beer judges. And, it's kind of our medium for expressing thoughts to the brewers that are entering their beers. It's clear that in different kinds of competitions, the brewers might have different goals as to what they want back out of a score sheet. And also just with the semantics of judging very, very large competitions versus very small competitions, you don't have to use the main BJCP score sheet as your competition's feedback to the entrant. You can use a checklist that you design yourself if you want. And there's a local competition that used to be run in Stern Grove Park in San Francisco. It was called Stern Grove. Now it's California State Homebrew Competition. And I think they're using more regular sheets now. But back in the day, they had this interesting little tiny score sheet that you'd give your feedback on. It was like the first time I had judged one where it wasn't just a regular score sheet, which I learned to write on. And later on, there came to be a lot of other sheets as well. There was, at NHC in the early 2010s, I believe it was, they started using the checklist score sheet, or maybe 2012, I think it was ish, for to try to help the judges get through the beers faster, but still give a lot of feedback. So I wanted to talk about the pros and cons of each style of sheet and kind of our preferences a little bit, but just what how a judge can adapt to different situations. Now, not all of our entrants or people that listen to the show are judges, but if you listen to the show enough, you kind of are. You know the lingo, the kind of feedback we give, and the score sheet is how we deliver it. So I've got my opinions about it. I'm sure Brian does as well.
Char, do you have opinions? I've never known you to have an opinion.
I do occasionally have opinions about stuff and things.
Nice.
And sometimes you'll be judging and you get thrown into an unfamiliar situation, or you get presented with a type of score sheet or type of format of judging that you're not used to. And you got to roll with the punches and deal with that. So I pulled up to what Brian was saying earlier, the 2011 score sheet that they debuted for the second round of HomebrewCon, or actually National Homebrew Competition.
Mm-hmm.
The con is always the con. The competition is always the competition. And what's interesting,
we're old dogs. Char.
Exactly.
Yeah, we can make that. We can make that mistake. We're all right.
Unlike that yippy dog that was in the background.
That's right.
Who was a very young dog. And that one, oh God, it's a dog festival.
You started
right
it.
on cue.
You started it.
It's a total dog festival. So what's interesting to me about the 2011 score sheet, I wish I could put this up on screen, but it's a podcast, so people will just listen to it. It is a checkbox-orama. There's probably 120 boxes you could check on this thing. And it's nuts because like aroma, there's malt. There's a box for none. There's 5 boxes for low to high. And then pretty much every descriptor you could think of, grainy, caramel, bready, grassy, herbal, grape, citrus, lactic, smoke, spice, not to mention the flaws. And the flaws were in a grid at the bottom of this thing. And they're not boxes so much as little rectangles. And there's like 36 of these with every single possible off flavor and aroma, with a place to check whether it's there for the aroma or the flavor, and then to put a low, medium, or high. And I respect the effort that went into this, because it's an attempt to capture the things that people would write by checking boxes. But there's just so very many boxes that I'm not sure that it really helped people out a lot. And there really wasn't a place, aside from one little line for aroma and appearance, a little bit bigger area for flavor, to talk about much of the detail. And I think that's why judges didn't necessarily care for this one a lot, because we're used to writing a lot.
Yeah. The check boxes too themselves are about less than 2 millimeters across each. They're just tiny little check boxes that, if you aren't careful in your accuracy, it'd be real easy to check the wrong one on there.
Yeah. And let's face it, how many of us that are judging are like over 40? Over 45, we got reading glasses, whatever, and it's not always super easy to pick all this stuff out.
Can't see 2 flights into your competition. Afternoon is going on. You had a beer at lunch, and here you are trying to check these little tiny boxes.
We're doing strong American ale. It'll be fine. There's not a problem. Yeah, we've all been there. But regardless of the boxes, I mean, your job is to characterize this as best you can. And it may not be in a format you're used to, but you do what you got to do. And I went to the BJCP website before the show, and I pulled that up. I also pulled up what they now call the structured score sheet, which is for the second round of National Homebrew Competition and up. And what's interesting to me is they took most of the boxes out, except for there's a column of boxes that's in aroma, it goes down through aroma, appearance, flavor, mouthfeel, and they're all shaded gray, and all of the gray shaded boxes are marked inappropriate. So you can check that box if something is there at an inappropriate level. And then there's places to write. And then the malt essentially, there's a line with a circle for none, and the line extends rightward, and there's a place you can check low, medium, or high. And it gives you sort of a more, I think, discretion about how to characterize the beer. The flaws are off to the side like they always are, but they give you a nice list of common descriptors, which I really like, because sometimes, even if you're an experienced judge, you're tasting something or smelling something, you're like, man, this is great, or this isn't great, but I don't quite know what it is. And sometimes if you just march through that list of descriptors, it can be really helpful to help you focus on what you're smelling or tasting that you can't quite put your finger on. And this
Although it's kind of like looking through a dictionary to come up with the first word for your great novel. There's a lot of words to sift through over there. And I don't know. I personally don't find it as helpful as some might. For a beginning judge, where you're like, okay, I need a good descriptor for a malt. If they're kind of grouped in families like that, that could help you. And they kind of are, I believe. But I pulled up all these same sheets that you did here. Like, this is the one you're looking at now. It's like, that's a little bit better, where you can check if something's a flaw. And it actually gives you a much more efficient way to say medium, medium, high. Like, I'm always trying to say, well, it's not quite medium and it's not quite medium high. It's like medium, medium, high. Then you're writing like 6 words to describe the thing, where if it's just a line and you can draw the X anywhere on the line, it gives you a place to write it. So, and you're very descriptive on that front. Conveys a little bit.
So you find it helpful as a judge. Do you find it helpful as a home brewer? I mean, assuming you guys have gotten some of this back.
Yeah. And I don't know that, as a judge or a home brewer, you could hone in on just slightly one fraction of a millimeter to the left here on this line. And then I'll get a much better beer. I think they're more helpful than just the pure checkbox aroma sheet. And you can still write things. I do find it kind of constricting in that you can only write a little bit about each thing. And if you get a beer that has really complex malt and all you have is one line that's about 2.5 inches across to write everything about the malt, it's kind of constricting, and I have a hard time giving strong, confident enough feedback to that entrant to tell him, okay, so but I might be writing into the margins, or I'll do what I need to get that across when there is something important to convey. But, you just have to work with what you've got. I don't know if that there's a perfect way to make it, I guess I'm kind of a purist in that I do prefer the classic score sheet myself. And speaking of classic score sheets, I pulled up some even older ones. I pulled up the beer score sheet from, it's the 1997-98 beer judge certification program. And our mailing list was the Celebrator Beer News in Hayward, California. And
oh my God, the Celebrator. Yeah. I love that thing.
So entrant, please write to the BJCP with concerns or complaints about the appropriateness of or tone of judges' comments. Include copies of score sheets, and it gives a PO box in Hayward to send them to. I wonder what would happen if you sent something there now, like send some score sheets there from, hey, this judge said my beer was crap and smelled like,
I don't know, the
toilet cleaner.
Celebrator doesn't exist anymore, right? They went out of business.
Yeah,
So I wonder if Tom checked that.
Got rid of the PO box. Yeah.
As a brief aside, I remember back in like the early 90s, mid 90s, where if you wanted to go to some brew pubs and you were traveling or something and you wanted to know what was there, you pretty much had to pick up the Celebrator and then grab your paper map and figure out where you're going on the paper map to go find the thing.
Oh, sure.
Right. There was no internet on phones at that time.
No. But I think going back to these score sheets, like the more recent second round and the National Homebrew Comp one is similar to GABF. I talked a little bit about GABF in one of the last shows we did. And the GABF score sheet, it's professional judging or judging for professional beer. It's a little bit different in format. What I kind of like that they do, it's laid out a lot like this more modern National Homebrew Comp second round sheet, but they've got for their spectrum, there's like a box in the middle that's expected for style, and then you go to the left for less, to the right for more, and you can put your X. So if things are all pretty much down the middle, you just check the X for everything right in the middle. But it can be then a little bit more difficult to then articulate, well, what's really different about this beer? What's interesting or good or what stands out? Because if you're within that range of things that's expected and you're just marking that X, well, how is this a beer that's better or worse, that should advance or not advance? And that can be a little more challenging.
Yeah. And another thing that changed too from the earlier, like first round NHC and second round NHC sheets that were that kind of style, they had comments to the right of the little, descriptor box where you check the levels of things. And there was a line for malt, a line for hops, a line for fermentation. Well, now it just gives you a line for comments under each section. So you can comment about whatever you want in that aroma or flavor that you didn't capture in the spectrum analysis of, okay, how far along the spectrum of maltiness is it, et cetera. But it still is only like 2 lines for aroma, 2 lines for, appearance, flavor, all of that. So I don't know. I guess I felt like, and then there's feedback at the bottom, which has a couple more lines. But I actually got one of these sheets back to me. And we talk about how rare it is that the entrant actually does, in the old days, they would mail it to the BJCP. And now you put your email address on there, or you can email the BJCP about a sheet if you want. But I actually got an email back from, NHC this year from a guy named Josh. And his email was really nice. He said, hey, so glad you were able to judge my beer. He asked me if I had the originals because the feedback was cut off on the bottom because I write too damn much. And I'm writing down to the very bottom of the sheet.
No.
And it's getting completely cut off.
No.
So I did my best to interpret what it did, the partial words that you could see the tops of. It's like, just a slight bit hoppier than some style. Anyway, but yeah.
You can always write on the back of the sheet. There's nothing wrong with writing in the back of the sheet.
No, but that's the thing. An organizer won't copy that 9 times out of 10. They're just sending them through a batch scanner.
Why?
The entrant never gets the sheet back.
That doesn't seem cool.
An emailed copy.
That doesn't seem okay. When we used to send those out, I would scan them front and back, which is why we stopped doing it, because it was a fucking pain in the ass.
Yeah.
That's why I make a note over, like in parenthesis. And I guess the entrant could always ask for that back. So maybe it's a dick move for me to still write on the back. I don't know.
But the beer that Josh sent in, it did advance to the subsequent round. And of course, in an NHC, there's like 4 rounds for some beers. This was a Munich Helles. I gave it really nice comments, and it scored the top rating for the flight and went on for him. I don't know how it did in subsequent rounds, but he had brewed a nice beer, and I wanted to give every entrant that got a sheet from me good feedback. So I really did my best to work with this. I don't prefer these kind of sheets, but I can work with them. And as a judge, you have to kind of be flexible. And as an entrant, if you ever have a question, well, you can write to the judge, but they may very well not remember your specific beer, judging dozens of entries.
Well, yeah, and then weeks ago too.
Yeah,
it's not like you get the sheet back like an hour later.
Yeah.
When you don't prefer these sheets, why? Is it because that you like to give as much information as you do, and you find it sort of a hindrance, or what?
Well, I guess I just like the prosaic nature of the language that you can use when writing a good sheet. You should be able to listen to the words that when we're reading a sheet on this show and tell what that beer should taste like. It's just very formulaic and robotic. Malts, just slightly below medium. Hops, just a little bit above medium low. Fermentation character, well, it's got kind of medium to medium low fermentation character. And then all I could write there was cleanly lagered, pleasant floral herbal hop, no DMS. That's all I had room to write for around. I was like, and the flavor is like fresh tasting, nice drinking Helles with clean lagering, pleasant hop use. The use got cut off, and good clean Pils malt flavor. The bottom. It's just I gave as complete as I could, but it was still.
I see what you're saying. I mean,
I want to say more about the beer.
Yeah. Well, look, that's why you send beers to the show, and honestly, that was sort of the impetus for this show. Is that you can't really get complete feedback on a sheet, and that was before they changed the sheets around. You need to ask, in my opinion, if you want to improve your beer, you need to be asking questions of the person judging your beer. It's very hard to take the written word and go, okay, I'll do that, especially in a competition setting, because it's not just one person, it's 2 people, and in my experience, oftentimes I would get conflicting information about roast is too light. You need more roast.
Yeah.
Well, what do you do with that?
I mean, we disagreed a little bit on the sweetness, but we were able to kind of discuss it out on that beer we just had that we heavy.
Well, and then David was here to be able to ask, like, well, if he gave a shit, it sounded like he just was brewing he just brewing it because, but like
one off. Yeah,
we've had people go, well, how do I do that? How do I adjust the sweetness, or where can you know what I mean, and ask those independent questions?
Yeah. I think this beer could be made to be even really, it's very good as it is. It could be made to be excellent with a few minor tweaks. And, I maybe as his kids grow older, he'll start needing stronger beers again. We'll see.
Yes.
Sorry, go ahead, Bryce. Sorry.
One thing I just wanted to say about the regular beer score sheet is, and as a judge trainee, you're trained to, you must comment on the malt and the hops and the esters and the other aromatics, everything that's listed here. As you go through that, it can be kind of formulaic there too. You can just get a sheet that says medium malt with breadiness, medium hop with the, citrus. It's, it's like a recipe for writing a sheet for certain kinds of beers, but then you get something like a sour beer or a fruited beer where, or a Belgian style beer. Sometimes we're all it's all other families of aromatics that are coming in. And if you just follow that same formula, you're not going to do the beer a good service. You're kind of comment around the sides of what it really is. So as a good judge, what you need to do is to learn how to focus on beer appropriate, style appropriate comments for that beer. I know that a Belgian Saison should have a nice prickly, phenolic, a spicy white pepper like character. Sometimes along those kind of families in there. If you just breeze through and comment on fermentation characteristics, balance, finish, aftertaste, and don't mention anything about the pepperiness or the fruitiness of a Saison, you're missing the point of the beer, So you got to be able to, or the sourness in a sour beer. It doesn't, nowhere on here does it say comment on the sourness level of the beer. But if you get a sour, you damn well better, Find a way to work it in. Work it, and that's under other flavor characteristics, of course. But you need to know how to do that. And as you judge with other people and read through some good score sheets, you learn how to do that.
Shar, what are you going to say?
Yeah, and I think that in general, just to kind of echo in a sense what Brian was saying, that when you're a judge, you might get confronted with unexpected score sheets. You might get confronted with like weird non-standard style guidelines you're not familiar with. At the end of the day, it's all about communicating what it is you're smelling and tasting and perceiving. And whether you do that by checking a box or making an X on a spectrum or writing a bunch of words down or whatever, I mean, your job is to perceive that and get that perception across in the manner that the competition organizer is trying to get you to do that. And it may not be what you're comfortable with or used to, but you can get comfortable with anything pretty quickly as far as your score sheet format. And just keep an open mind and just go there with the intent to, taste some beers, give some feedback, have a good time, and it'll all work out okay.
There you go.
Yeah. I mean, that said, if you do get to a competition where the organizer's telling you to do something that's just completely wrong and don't write more than one line per aroma, appearance, flavor section. Just do one line or 2 or 3 words. That's all we need here. We need to be quick. So forget you judges, etc.
Yeah. That'll never happen.
Just fight back against that a little bit, maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's the type. Exactly. There's not an excuse for not communicating. No matter how pressed for time you might be, if anyone's giving you directions like that, you need to push back on that.
For sure.
Doesn't mean you have to spend half an hour per beer.
Right. All right, everybody. I think that's it. We're going to take off. We're going to get ready for the next show. So thank you very much to David for coming back on the show and giving us a beer we rarely have. And apparently we've had it a lot more recently than anybody remembered. But that's okay. It's the nature of the game, man. It happens. All right, everyone, take care, and until next time, we'll see you later. Oh, actually, if you want to be on the show, if you want to send us beers, which you can do, and you should do, it is your duty as a person with ears listening to this show. Email brian@thebrewingnetwork.com. The show doesn't exist unless you guys send us beers. Email brian@thebrewingnetwork.com. He'll get you on the rotor. And we'll get you in here, and
And we're much better than any kind of score sheet that's out there. We're living, breathing score sheets.
It's 25 minutes of 2-on-1, hot homebrew action, and you can ask any question or whatever. So it's think of it like that. It's a free consultation. All it costs you is some beer and some shipping. But if you're in the Bay Area, we will do our best to meet you somewhere. But anyway.
Is that a category on Pornhub, JP?
Sure.
Like the whole hot 2-on-1 judging action?
Sure it is. Why not?
Attentive, well-meaning judges are waiting for you.
We'll start it.
Only $2.99 a minute.
And I'll just upload this show.
1-900, judge your beer.
All right, everybody. Thanks a lot. We'll see you.